So, something a bit closer to home. I'm going to talk about what we call, what can be jokingly called the Chefzicht, or Chefzicht. And if you don't know what that is, you might have heard that there was a bit of hubbub going on in South Yorkshire. Something to do with what they called the Sheffield city region. Now, a couple of years ago there was this big grand idea by George Osborne for what he called the Northern Powerhouse. Now, I thought this was an amazing idea. Let's spend a lot of money, a lot of investment, and get the North working. It has a lot of manpower. It has a lot of stuff basically going for this area, and it's not being used because there has been decades of just non-investment. And basically, Manchester was the first lot to sort themselves out. They sorted themselves out to the Manchester city region. Now, here's the problem, is that Yorkshire is not Manchester, because Manchester is a city surrounded by satellite towns. Yorkshire, oh dear, Yorkshire is, shall we say, 20 separate councils, all vying for funding and basically anything else. Now, there are lots and lots of stories about how the different councils have basically pulled one over each other, pissed each other off constantly. One of the infamous ones is the Royal Armouries. Many people don't know the original location for the armouries was meant to be in Sheffield. Leeds came in at the last minute after saying, no, we're not interested, and literally swooping up the armouries in literally last minute out of nowhere bid that completely blew Sheffield's out of the water. There are numerous stories like that. So put it this way, these councils do not get along. Now, to be able to access the funding that the Manchester City region has had access to since doing a mayor, bear in mind the Northern Powerhouse has completely fallen through, but Manchester did get its mayor. They are now what is known as a city region, and they now command a lot of influence, and they can draw money to them, which is what areas like Barnsley and Yorkshire were really desperate for. And considering that we are now cut off from the European development grants and things like that, we don't have access to those anymore. And you've also got to face the fact that continuously councils are being told to slash more and more of their budget. And a lot of these councils, particularly in Yorkshire, were relying heavily on European funding grants to get that funding to do their projects, to get infrastructure working, and to attract more businesses. That will not be the case. This is one of the reasons why I talk about this. Now, a lot of people raise the thing of, oh, but it's our money. No, it's not just our money. It's Germany's, France's, Italy's, and all the other European countries as well. That pot of money is huge. And it is far more money that we could pull from than just the UK. Think of it like this, in simple terms. You go out with £20 in your pocket for a night out. How far do you think that will go? Now imagine if six of you go out and agree that all that £20 notes in your pockets are going to be shared among you to buy drinks and food. How far and how much more money and products, shall I say drinks and food, are you going to be able to buy? The one where you're just by yourself, or the one where you're with multiple people? So, now that we are facing this absolutely awful lack of investment, the idea was that we were going to form city regions. York and Hull were going to form one, Leeds was going to be one, and then the one was going to be the Sheffield city region, which would have been Sheffield, Rotherham, Doncaster, Barnsley. And that would have been the Sheffield City region. Now the problem is that we Northerners, we don't like Southerners, but there's one thing we hate more than Southerners, and that's probably each other. You know, it's typical, but as I said, there is a lot of animosity between these councils. Now, you have the idea of Sheffield City region was going to be this thing. We were going to, all these things were going to vote, it was going to go, boom, we're done, Sheffield City region. Except, well, Sheffield being Sheffield, basically decided, right, we're doing things our way, and whatnot. So they infamously, during the HS2 talks, the mayors of Doncaster and Barnsley basically stormed out of the meeting about that and the Sheffield City region, and literally out of the region, to a point where we had a referendum, believe it or not, about whether Doncaster and Barnsley wanted to be with the Sheffield City region or they wanted to be with the Greater Yorkshire one, which again hasn't been finalised, hasn't been done anything since, as far as I'm aware of doing this video. It's just sitting there currently not doing a lot. And as a result, the Sheffield City region is literally now just Sheffield and Rotherham. So, and they're meant to be having a mayoral election coming up for that position. There is no office, he has no powers, and as yet there are no candidates. So, as you can see, that is just a complete mess. So the next thing that we have to do is that we now have to go, okay, let's get all 20 councils to vote and agree on a one Yorkshire plan and deal. Now the problem was that there are 20 councils. The last time they had a meeting on this, only 17 showed up. And of course, one of those that didn't show up was Sheffield. So this entire region idea is a good idea. We desperately need it, because then we will be able to at least throw our weight around more, because as we're about to find out as a country, standing alone isn't such a good idea when you can stand as a group. So yeah, one Yorkshire region and plan. I hope it happens soon, hopefully before Brexit, because it's not, it's going to get even harder. But yes, yeah, I despair at the times of my fellow Yorkshire folk. But yeah, there you go.